brief history lesson on the development of the game are as follows. Unfortunately, I found absolutely nothing while researching this game's development. Wow. I'm extremely disappointed that I have nothing to say on this, but one thing that I can mention is that Sonic Advance was not developed by Sonic Team themselves, but rather a company under the name of Dimps.
This was not Dimps' first attempt at making a game in the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Their first contribution to the series was actually a game called Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Despite how obscure it is, I'd recommend it if you can find it. It houses essentially what is Sonic 2's level design while having Sonic 3's soundtrack, while also being 8-bit.
In any case, Sonic Advance was their first game that people actually recognize and remember. Here's another little tidbit. Sonic Advance was not only released for the GBA, but also the Nokia N-Gage under the title Sonic N. It wasn't received well from what I hear due to the effects of screen crunch. That end, who owned an N-Gage?
Beats me, hence why we've decided to focus on the GBA version since, let's be honest, that's the version that everyone is going to play.
Alrighty, let's get on with the review. Diving right in, the story begins with Dr. Eggman stealing little woodland creatures and turning them into his robotic slaves so he can conquer the world. It's a real departure from what you've gotten before in the series, and you'd be hard-pressed to find storytelling any deeper than this.
Said no one ever. As you can see, both the story and gameplay were kept incredibly simple to emulate the same experience of the Genesis games. This is a very positive thing, as not only does it stay true to the nature of classic Sonic, but it also offers what is truly needed from a 2D Sonic game, which is the ability to begin gameplay right off the bat. After you've selected your character, you'll notice things seem very familiar. You start the game in Neo Green Hill Zone. Not the most original level, I know, but I think it serves as a metaphor as to exactly what sort of game Sonic Advance is. A flashback to Green Hill Zone, but given a fresh coat of paint to update Sonic Advance for a more modern audience. As for the zone itself, it's pretty standard. You've got your loops, springs, and of course your dash pads. It's also very short and fairly unremarkable, all things considered.
The next zone is Secret Base, and it's probably one of the best levels in the game. You start outside the base to where you have to zip through the window. From there, the level takes on a more Metropolis Zone vibe, with ropes to swing on and hooks to grab to get to higher places.
Casino Paradise is actually fairly different from the other levels that take on the same casino aesthetic. Instead of using slot machines, this level decides to go for a more Disneyland type aesthetic. Candy cane coloured slides, wooden boat rides, and the castle in the background are just a few examples. It feels familiar, but fresh at the same time, which is great. The atmosphere was absolutely nailed with this one. This level also has a ton of alternate pathways to check out, which is something that I feel all fans of the classics can appreciate. This is Gavin's favourite zone, and it's not difficult to see why.
Ice Mountain is a level most people aren't going to like on their first playthrough. Why? That's why. It's the main gimmick of the level, so you better get used to it. Despite this, however, compared to other water-based levels, you don't really spend all that much time drowning, which makes this level more tolerable. Still though, it's a rather boring zone with boring level design. Not worth getting upset about, just not a fun zone.
Well, here's another familiar stage, Angel Island Zone. Unlike its Sonic 3 counterpart that was more focused on the natural elements of the island, Sonic Advance decides to turn its attention to man-made structures. Gimmicks include clouds to bounce on like in Sky Sanctuary Zone, poles to hang on, waterfalls to jump up like in Sandopolis, very nice touch by the way, as well as weird Pokeball shaped screws. My fan character's even the boss of this level.
My OC's better than yours!
Shut up!
Last is Egg Rocket, and this level's a very tricky one, sometimes for the wrong reasons. Up until now, there has been no zone that either of us have considered flat out bad. The big gimmick of Egg Rocket is that you have to traverse 3 sections of this ship, and you have 3 minutes to get to each. The timer will reset after each section, which is great because if it didn't, this would be one of the most annoying Sonic levels in the history of the franchise. Oftentimes you'll be launched into enemies and spikes with little to no time to react. And my least favorite part of the zone, the outside areas are filled with bottomless pits, many of which are impossible to predict, so if you fall, pray you'll land safely. Don't count on it though.
There's also one instance of a noob trap. At one of the final sections of the level, there'll be a dash pad right next to a conveyor belt. Using your 2D Sonic instincts, you'll probably deduce that since this is off the beaten path, there's something hidden down there. Nope, you just fall straight back down to where you came. Thanks developers, love you too. Accompanying each level are some really great and almost atmospheric pieces at times. An example being Secret Base with its funky spy thriller type beats. And Ice Mountain that provides a feeling of serenity as you watch the snow rain over the mountain. Really good here, especially for the GBA's limited sound chip.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Jack. Not entirely, but somewhat. Some of these tracks are great, shoutouts to Neo Green Hill Act 2 as well as Casino Paradise Act 2 especially, but I don't think any tracks have good instrumentation. In fact, I'd use this game as an example of how horrible the GBA sound capabilities truly are. Despite this major criticism, the composition of many of these pieces is shockingly good. There are rather complex rhythms in there, and some variety of tempos and whatnot. So now that we've been through the levels, let us analyze the characters themselves. If you're a fan of Sonic 3, you'll be in for a pleasant surprise. The fundamental gameplay of all of the characters have the same styles and distinctive traits, and it's exactly what you expect. Sonic isn't really all that special. He can grind on rails, but as always, he can't fly or climb walls. He's the Mario of this game essentially. The only other ability that Sonic has is the Insta-Shield. The Insta-Shield will be deemed helpful or not helpful, depending on what you thought of the move in Sonic 3. Moving right along, Tails and Knuckles are just as you remember them from Sonic 3, as I already stated. They can fly, glide, climb on walls, the works. The real star of the show, though, is Amy, making her 2D debut. Amy might as well be the challenge run of the game. Unlike the main trio, she can't jump on enemies or even spin dash. Instead, she has this small hop. For her method of attack, she needs to swing her hammer using the B button. Her lack of spin dash can lead to some parts of the level being particularly awkward to traverse. Luckily, there's a neat compromise. By hitting springs with Amy's hammer, you'll be launched higher and further, which in turn leads to secrets that the primary Colors gang can't reach. Like Sonic, she can also grind on rails, probably to mirror multiplayer mode from Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Amy is a very love it or hate it character in this game, but Gavin and I enjoy her style. While she's by no means a good first choice when booting up Sonic Advance for the first time, she's fun to play once you're familiar with the level design. She's challenging to use, but a faithful adaptation of her gameplay style from Sonic Adventure.
I completely agree, Jack. Every character is also very expressive and brimming with personality. All of the sprites are filled with detail and have several frames of animation, making for some really fluid movements, which to be expected for a Sonic game. Every character also has a 3-hit combo, which while very situational, is totally harmless and can come in handy when dealing with some of the bosses. Speaking of...
The bosses fall into that same subpar category as the Genesis games. You can keep hitting them over and over again, which actually makes defeating the bosses a total cakewalk. A lot of people claim that they like it when the bosses are designed in this way, saying that it's fast paced and therefore fits with the theme of Sonic. If we compare this type of boss to, say, the Egg Golem from Sonic for Episode 2, we can see that the boss has the exact opposite problem. They're harder to hit for sure, but the downside is that they tend to drag out to an almost tedious degree. I propose that the challenge from a Sonic boss should come from finding unique ways to damage it, rather than waiting for an opening. Sonic 3 and Sonic CD are excellent examples of this. As it stands, these bosses aren't bad, they're just underwhelming, which sadly also extends to the final boss.
Unlike what's to come...
Keep it together, bud. We'll get there.
The Chaos Emeralds are required to get to the final boss on the moon.
Wait, shouldn't that thing be blown in half?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Good point, well made.
In order to collect a Chaos Emerald, you need to locate all 7 special springs located in a specific act of a given zone. This method of getting the Chaos Emeralds is convenient. It encourages exploration without making the requirements to get to the special stage too obtuse.
Seriously people, don't get used to that.
Jack, don't spoil the review of the next game! The problems with this system is that each of the springs are in one set location. One of the things that gave Sonic 3 its timeless quality was the location of each of the special rings. Some were so esoteric, in fact, that you could stumble on them after several years of playing the game. Also, certain characters are going to have a harder time finding the springs than others. I placed the 4 characters in a list, starting from the character that can find the springs the easiest to the one that has the hardest time. That order is Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Sonic.
Indeed, though I'd rather take a system like this over what we get in subsequent games. As for the special stages themselves, they can be a rather tricky bunch mainly due to your positioning. In these stages, you're on a snowboard, in space no less, as you drop down a tube whilst trying to get the desired amount of rings. Take a look at your perspective as you fall down the tube. Yeah, you're gonna have a tough time at first. While it may look like you're on a 2D plane, the game tries to have 3D depth, which doesn't work that well. What this means is that sometimes you think you're on top of the rings, but actually you're way off. It's not something I'd necessarily call bad, just different. Once I got a feel for them, I actually found them to be pretty okay.
Sadly though, unlike Sonic 2 and 3, you can no longer go Supersonic in stages. Instead, he's used as a final boss exclusive, which sucks.
I don't know, I actually kind of prefer it this way.
Really? How come?
Well, it's more down to how many times I've played these games. I honestly felt that in Sonic 2, since a lot of stages weren't that vertically complex, they could be beaten in mere minutes with Supersonic. This ultimately meant the ring limit meant nothing in the long run. Given that Sonic Advance's level design is much more compact than something like Sonic 3, I feel the same could apply here. Again, your mileage may vary, but I've played Sonic enough to where cheesing the level of Supersonic isn't really all that fun for me in particular, as I feel it ruins the challenge. That said, however, I do think the super forms should have at least been an option for those who want to use them, especially given all the effort you have to go through just to get the emeralds in the first place.
Ugh, the final boss is so tedious to get to, not only because you have to collect the Chaos Emeralds through some pretty annoying special stages, but also because you have to play the game 4 times with all 4 characters. I hated this in Sonic Heroes, I hated this in Advance 2 as you'll see later, and I hate it here. Multiple characters are supposed to encourage multiple playthroughs, not force them. In Sonic 3, all you needed was 1 set of emeralds to get to the Doomsday Zone. I'm aware that this argument gets brought up a lot, but that doesn't make it any less true. And after all that effort, what do we get? A fight that takes about a minute to beat. Just ram into its head a few times and there you go, he's dead. Sonic's friends are seen looking up at the moon, wondering what happened to their longtime friend. Then a few days later, Tails is out flying his plane one day until he ends up spotting a shining light, which just so happens to be our speedy hero. Man, that's actually quite a nice way to end such a good game. Final thoughts, Jack?
Sonic Advance, to me, is everything that Sonic 4 should have been. It expands on what made the Genesis game so great with an updated look and the addition of an extra playable character. At the same time, it keeps things simple, familiar, and above all, fun so that gamers of all ages can instantly pick this game up and start having a fantastic time.
With that said, time for the good old recommendation system. Alright, Jack, 2 people have to agree on this ranking, it can't just be me.
Oh, don't worry, I think I can read your mind with this one. Go for it.
Alright! Sonic Advance is sadly unavailable on the Wii U eShop in North America, so that means that the only way to play this game is on an original GBA. You can find the game used on Amazon for around $15, otherwise you'll have to go hunt it out yourself. With that being said, as well as what Jack and I have said about the game's quality, we believe that Sonic Advance is a deserving time.
Give it a shot, people, you won't be disappointed.
I do feel that this game could have been a tad more original. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great game, I just think perhaps this game plays it a little too safe. You know what I mean?
I certainly do, Evan. Maybe this next game might be more of what you're looking for. Sonic Advance to everybody.
Sonic Advance 2. Where do I begin?
I take it you have a rather long history with this one.
What gave it away?
Oh, just a hunch. This game in particular, along with Sonic Heroes, was actually my introduction to the franchise, so I'm really looking forward to reviewing this one.
Yes, well, I'm sure we'll have time to go over our thoughts and opinions later, but for now let's focus on the game's development.
What development?
Right, couldn't find anything on this one either.
Okay then, what about the story?
Dr. Eggman has once again put animals into robots and—
Yeah, come on man, we've been through this before.
If I could be allowed to finish. Dr. Eggman has once again put animals into robots and has kidnapped a new character, Cream the Rabbit, who is playable, her pet Chow, Cheese, and her mother named Vanilla.
Wait, Cream, Cheese, and Vanilla. What? Did they secretly hire their character designer from Rare or something? I can make better puns than that.
Get out.
Well, that's just mean.
The name of the game is still very much the same. You still go through 7 zones and collect Chaos Emeralds as you go. The differences between Advance 1 and Advance 2 start to become more apparent when you start picking up some momentum. Sonic in this game is quite possibly the fastest he's ever been on a 2D plane, which may sound amazing until reality hits you square in the face. Sonic in the previous games has always had issues with visibility, but it's even worse here due to the sheer speed you're going at, coupled with the tiny GBA screen you're working with. How Sonic's speed works in this game is if you keep on running forward, he'll eventually enter boost mode, as indicated by this admittedly cool afterimage effect. The more rings you collect, the shorter time it takes for you to start up boost mode again. In theory, keeping your rings should feel like some kind of reward, but I don't think so for several reasons. First is that half of the time you're just holding right and collecting rings anyway, so it rarely ever feels earned. Even if it did, the amount of cheap shots you suffer by going too fast is literally insane.
Evan, criticizing the game already?
Well, yeah, it's a poorly designed game.
Why don't we take a step back and actually discuss the levels first?
You start the game off at Leaf Forest, a very fast zone with little in the ways of any obstacles whatsoever. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is a stage that can be beaten just holding right.
Yeah, but can't you say that for most first levels in Sonic, at least the 2D ones anyway?
Okay, we'll give this one a pass. What about Hot Crater?
What about Hot Crater? Dude, this is one of the best levels in the game. It's so fun just to speed right by everything, and once you've mastered the trick system, getting to higher areas for the best times is so fun to pull off. I love the fact that now every character can grind on rails, which opens up more possibilities for diverse level designs.
Too bad this feels like yet another stage where all you're doing is holding right and occasionally jumping. I'm aware that Sonic games like to play themselves sometimes, but even Chemical Plant is more going on than this. As for this trick system you mentioned, I've got a few personal bones to pick later on, and let's just say it's one of the reasons why I don't like this game very much. Besides, weren't you the one that said that you didn't like Supersonic because he broke the game?
It's a little bit different from that, Gavin. See, unlike Supersonic in Sonic 2, the stages feel like they're actually built around this speed. It's hard to explain, but once you get a feel for the level design in Advance 2, everything feels like it just clicks into place. Every obstacle is almost seamlessly connected, creating a fast and flowing experience. I'll agree that the nature of some of these stages can make them feel slightly repetitive. Given that this is a handheld game, however, Sonic Advance 2 best suits itself to short bursts of play anyway.
True, but I'd argue that just because you know something is there from failing beforehand doesn't make it any less cheap if the obstacle in question is only on screen for a few seconds. I appreciate trial and error gameplay, but this game has moments where they surprise you with bottomless pits constantly. Not only does it break the flow you were talking about, but it is aggravating on the part of the player. Also, Cream is basically supersonic, at least when it comes to boss fights. Cheese's attack is just plain broken.
Music Plant is just so charming. Unlike other levels where the only thing that changes is the backdrop, here all familiar assets, such as springs and bumpers, have been changed into musical instruments.
I will admit that conceptually this level is pretty great. I really like how the xylophone changes pitch depending on which part of the instrument is pressed. Being launched through various trombones and trumpets is always a good time, and using the wind from the flutes and clarinets to get to higher areas is very creative.
Another very polished stage is Ice Paradise. Unlike a lot of other snowy levels in Sonic where the stage usually takes place in a mountainous region, here we get a glimpse of a frozen cityscape during the night time, and as a result it's a beautiful looking stage. To top that off, we get a song that just oozes the holiday season, one of my favourite times of the year.
And then we come to Sky Canyon, where Advance 2 quite literally runs itself off a cliff. And you want to know why, Jack? It's all because of that trick system you love so much. There's this one part in the first act of the zone where you have to trick jump upwards. You trick jump by holding up and pressing the R button. The game hasn't told you this, and up until this point, has never even hinted at its existence.
I thought you hated when games hold your hand.
Oh, I do, but what I hate even more is when the game spends the first 3 zones expecting you to do nothing but hold right, then just throw advanced techniques out of nowhere at you and expects you to just get it. I'd take Omochow at this point.
You could just read the manual.
Good one, Jack.
Techno Base is yet another interesting stage. I love the CPU aesthetic, and the holographic spikes are yet another really nice touch that I love. The actual level itself, on the other hand, has much of the same problem as Sky Canyon, in that if you aren't on the top route, bottomless pits will sneak up on you.
I'll cover this last one. Finally is Egg Utopia, where the game taps into its inner crazy gadget with anti-grav gimmicks. Unlike the game, however, you aren't able to control it, at least not in the main acts. Despite what I might feel about the level design, I do really like just how grand this level feels. You can literally see the Earth as you constantly enter and exit the station, and it looks really epic. Egg Utopia is a great example of space atmosphere in games.
I think the problem with the greater sense of speed as far as the levels are concerned is that a lot of them do tend to blend together. Not just through their structure, but also through their set pieces too. I mean, they are there, don't get me wrong, but you go by them so fast that you don't really notice them. Hulk Crate, for example, really fast, really fun level, but I could not tell you anything specific within the stage bar the general aesthetics and the music. The only real exception to this being Music Plant, which is practically made out of gimmicks.
The speed also has an effect on the way you play with the characters. Yes, they have their special abilities from Advance 1, as they always do, but you're never encouraged to use them, nor are there any real opportunities to use them. If you're not going fast, you're either taking a hit or falling to your death.
I'd have to agree with that. I love being able to play as Tails and Knuckles, but I can't remember the last time I climbed a wall as Knuckles in this game. Maybe when getting the Chaos Emeralds, but I don't really want to open that can of worms. At least not yet. In Advance 2, you have to beat at least 70% of Sonic's campaign in order to unlock all the characters. That's dumb.
You want to know what else is dumb? The boss fights. They all suck. That's right, every single one of them. To be fair, most Sonic bosses are not the best, but at least the ones in Advance 1 weren't annoying. The bosses have you constantly moving forward, and this comes with a number of different problems. The first is that if the boss hits your character, you lose all your momentum and get knocked back to the far end of the screen. You can double tap the right button to perform the dash move, though this is rather tricky to pull off. Another issue is that because you are constantly moving forward, it's hard to change your position while in midair. This is especially true for bosses like the one in Techno Base, where you have to dodge little balls of energy while trying to actually hit the boss. You know, what you're supposed to do?
If only you could stop like in the other games.
Indeed.
presentation overall is a step up from Advance 2's predecessor. Gavin and I have praised the visuals and the animations of the previous game, but they've only gotten better here.
Undeniably, this game looks incredible, and especially when you're moving fast. The soundtrack also received a slight buff in instrumentation, but I actually prefer the composition of Advance 1's soundtrack. And now it's time to talk about my favorite part of Advance 2. The Chaos Emeralds. Remember how in the first game you had to find a special spring? Well, this is nothing like that. In each level there are special rings you have to collect.
So, how many rings do you need to get to the special stage, Mr. Gavin?
7.
What?
You heard me! 7! You need all 7 special rings. You know what other game you need to collect 7 special rings?
No, please, no, please.
You need all 7 special rings in order to get to the special stage, and that's not even the worst part. Since you're going so fast, you'll never have a chance to stop and find the collectibles. Some of these rings are so well hidden that a guide is pretty much required to get all 7. If you die, you gotta collect all 7 again! Which, given what we talked about, is just not fun.
Ironically, the special stages themselves are an absolute joke. You're in a 3D mode 7 type space, much like the Sonic CD special stages. When you collect a string of rings, you'll gain a 2 times multiplier. Get more rings, then you'll get a 3 times bonus, then a 4 times bonus, and then a 5 times bonus, and it just keeps on going. May I remind you guys that you only need 300 rings, and you can get them in less than 20 seconds.
Oh, well, we haven't even gotten to the best part. In order to get everything in the game, which includes the Tiny Chow Garden that we don't care about, a sound test, time attack, boss rushes, and an extra playable character in the form of Amy Rose, you have to collect the Chaos Emeralds 4 times!
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That is the biggest understatement I've ever heard.
In the ending, Sonic turns super and rescues Vanilla from her capsule. All of a sudden, Sonic loses his super form, so he does what any normal person would do in this situation, attempt to land on his feet.
Hold on a minute, I'm pretty sure Sonic's legs should be broken and his bones shattered after a fall like that.
Yes, well, Dimps never really was one for realistic physics. So, how does Mr. Gavin feel about Sonic Advance 2?
Sonic Advance 2 has a lot of good ideas, but they unfortunately are lost in a sea of repetitive, samey, and cheap level designs. The Chaos Emerald system completely goes against the game's gotta go fast mentality, and the bosses are some of the worst in any Sonic game. You're free to enjoy this game if you wish, but I can't stand it. What about you, Jack?
Sonic Advance 2 is a game that even after all these years, I can say I still enjoy. That said, replaying this game again for this review kinda made me realise a lot of the game's shortcomings. In particular, the admittedly cheap oversaturation of bottomless pits. Even then, Advance 2, to me, is still a pretty good game, all things considered.
And with that said, Sonic Advance 2, I think Jack and I can both agree that you should take it or leave it. If you're looking for the same experience as Advance 1, then you're not going to find it here, so stay clear. For me in particular, trying to recommend one game over the other is kind of difficult.
It's like the Sonic Adventure 1 versus Sonic Adventure 2 debate. Do you enjoy a more explorative approach, or do you prefer an arcade style? I think it's really up to you guys to decide, because your mileage will vary between each of these games. In any case, I think we both need to calm down after that one. Gavin, we were having such a fun time reviewing Advance 1. Did Advance 2 really take away from the fun of reviewing for you?
I'd say so, but I think we can make up for that with our last review. Let's have some fun again.
Hold on a sec, there's still something we need to go over. The Tiny Chow Garden is a feature that can be found in both Advance 1 and Advance 2, hence why we're talking about it before Advance...
Nobody cares, Jack. Can we get to Advance 3 now?
Well, if you say already, here comes Sonic Advance 3.
Here we are, the final game for today's analyses, and my personal favorite out of the 3. As for this game's development, I still didn't find anything. The story is actually much more complex this time. Dr. Eggman has stolen the Chaos Emeralds and has used them to split the planet into several pieces.
You mean like Sonic Unleashed?
What do you mean? Sega never reuses ideas.
Dr. Eggman is not alone, however, as this time he's got a new robot working for him in the form of General. Oh boy, it's time for another detour. In a game called Sonic Battle, also for the GBA, there was a character named Emerald. Emerald was a special type of robot named a Gizoid. Gizoids had the power to copy the movesets of their opponents. What does this mean in the context of this game? Absolutely nothing. All you need to know is that Dr. Eggman has rebuilt Emerald, and now he's out for your blood.
While the levels in Advance 3 are nowhere near as fast as last time, it more than makes up for it by having a balance between speed and platforming.
I'm more of a fan of Advance 1's philosophy, but I can't deny that this game certainly has a lot going for it. This can no doubt be traced back to the big new feature of this installment of the Advance series, the partner system.
By going into the giant ring at the start of each hub world, you can now pick 2 characters. The first character will be the one that you control, and the second one will determine what kind of abilities the player character will have. This essentially means that you have near infinite possibilities when approaching a given level. Sonic, when partnered with Knuckles for example, not only gets the insta-shield, but also a bounce attack, as well as a flaming upward strike. Knuckles and Tails might as well be the best combination in the game, as not only Knuckles can glide and climb walls, he also gets a double jump, which is really handy for going great distances.
Indeed. My favourite thing about the partner system has to be how they handled Amy. In Sonic Advance 1, she had to use her hammer to get around the levels, as we explained earlier. While this may have irritated some players, it did spice things up without straying too far away from the original formula. In Advance 2, she was a clone of Sonic, though the only way you'd know that is if you had enough patience to unlock her in the first place. Gavin didn't.
Oh yeah, I actually had to use a Game Shark to record Amy's footage.
In Advance 3, if you pair Amy up with Sonic, then she'll have her Advance 2 playstyle. On the other hand, if she's paired up with any of the other characters, she'll play like she did in Advance 1. I love this because it satisfies both types of players. Now for the levels themselves. Route 99 is a very refreshing and almost subversive opening stage. Instead of starting in a grassy field like most Sonic games, you're instead given something along the lines of Sonic Adventure 2 City Escape. I don't care what side of the fanbase you come from, you're outright lying to me if you tell me you don't like City Escape. This level is still plenty fast and has a lot more going on with it compared to Green Forest. The appearance of seesaw type platforms from Starlight, complex loops and the abundance of grind rails help Route 99 stand out. Gavin and I found grinding annoying in Advance 1 and 2 because once the rail went in a tilted direction, you could no longer jump on them. Advance 3 finally fixes this as it allows players to jump on rails whenever they'd like.
Moving on to Zone 2, Sunset Hill is about what you'd expect from a level with a lot of platforming. There are poles to jump across and even the occasional waterfall. Act 3 in particular has a really nice test of your platforming skills. It's a vertically based stage, so you won't die if you fall, but you will have to do certain sections again. Punishing, but not unforgiving. Also, any level with a sunset gets an instant thumbs up as far as visuals are concerned. This level also contains a really sweet remix of Green Hill Zone. Take a listen.
If you thought Sonic 06 was being created by having an underwater base level, then think again, because Advance 3 did it first with Ocean Base. I don't have much to say about this one, to be honest. It's an underwater level, and unless you're Hydro City, that can only get you so much praise in a Sonic game. Really cool concept for a level though, and the addition of chemical plant tubes is also a really nice touch.
And now we come to Toy Kingdom, one of my favorite Sonic levels, period.
I know, right? This level's fantastic. Say, it kinda reminds me of Clownman stage from Mega Man 8.
Hey, we don't talk about that game. This level is just packed to the brim with charm. You have animal-shaped balloons to bounce on, spinning panda teacups, and the springs have been turned into jack-in-the-boxes that require correct timing to use.
One of my favourite things about this stage has to be the badniks, which is not something I can say for any other Sonic level. You have your lines of toy soldiers and the juggling clowns, but my favourite has to be the piggy bank on wheels that sucks up your rings when you get hit. I know this might seem like an insignificant detail, but it's charm like this that makes the Sonic series stand above the rest in my opinion.
Twinkle Snow is yet another water level, however, unlike Ocean Base, this level is much more open, and you don't spend nearly as much time in the water as you do with the aforementioned one. You even get to occasionally ride a minecart, which is odd, but by all means fun. The Aurora Borealis in the background also looks fantastic. That coupled with the music makes for a really just pleasant level.
Cybertrack shares a lot of similarities to Techno Bass from Advance 2. While I do prefer the colour palette of Techno Bass, Cybertrack is much more interesting, mainly because of the gravity shifting gimmick. I also love it when you go inside a cannon because you get to choose which path you want to go down. That's very cool. Another small detail that I find really charming is when you step on a crumbling platform. The animation that plays looks like data being erased. That's what we call theming, everybody.
The final stage, Chaos Angel. Unfortunately the weakest out of them all. The problem is that the stage goes on for a tad too long, and to top it off with an overabundance of bottomless pits. And then you have Act 3, which is really lame as you're just standing on one platform all the way to the goal ring. Thanks, Stims, what a great closing level!
We once again have to praise another one of Advance 3's new features. Sonic Advance 3 has miniature hub worlds. This allows players to play each of the acts in the order that they want. Depending on your perspective, however, you may find that it breaks up the pace too much, so to each his own. This is also where you can choose to talk to Omochao, who will teach you all your basic moves, so you never have to worry about moments like the one in Sky Canyon ever again.
In fact, the trick system is no longer required, since only certain combinations such as Sonic and Tails allow for them.
While not as bad as Advance 2's case, Advance 3 occasionally suffers from visibility issues. Though you'll only suffer the consequences, say, 5 times?
5 times? Alright, there are 5 crushing blocks in Advance 3, but everyone complains that they are everywhere in the game, so to clear up this common complaint, Jack and I fully admit that there are unfair instances of death via these 5 crushing blocks, but at least in my opinion, it doesn't matter much if it only happens 5 times.
But what if a player complains about this game being filled with bottomless pits, despite the fact that Advance 2 had just as many, if not more?
To them I say, cry me a river.
The Chaos Emerald system works like this. There are 10 Chao in a given zone, 3 in each act and 1 in the hub world. You need to collect all 10 of these Chao. After that, a key should generate in one of the acts. You then need to beat the stage without dying and then find a special spring within the hub world to take you to the special stage.
The special stages themselves work like this. You're on top of the Tornado 2 and you have to collect the desired amount of rings. By passing through these booster gates, your plane will transform and you'll get a timed 2 multiplayer on your rings. You can also bounce on top of robots to get rings as well. These are a pretty cool take on the half pipe and much better than Advance 1 and Advance 2. They also try to pull a pseudo 3D look like they did in Advance 1, but this time it's a lot better.
I don't like these.
How come?
These are essentially the half pipe without being the half pipe. I've got a few problems here. The first is that you're controlling 2 things, the plane itself and your position on the plane. This can make it difficult to respond to obstacles in time without losing your rings, and in the later stages, getting hit twice is pretty much a death sentence. Second is that much like in Advance 1, where you are in relation to the enemies can be very hard to grasp. This can not only make dodging their projectiles a huge pain, but actually hitting them back. In cases like Special Stage 7, the robots are right next to bombs, and you're almost required to bounce off them to get your ring quota.
Any other complaints, Jack?
I don't like how you have to be Sonic to get the other characters, that just seems kinda dumb in a game focused on multiple choice. Admittedly, some combinations can also outright suck. Knuckles and Sonic, I'm looking right at you. Other than that, it's all good.
Alright, I can agree to disagree on the special stages. I don't think they're great, but I see your point. Tell you what we can both agree on. The bosses being very good. Each of them are fast-paced without having the fight being too easy. Like in the Toy Kingdom boss, for example, where you have to push Eggman off the platform while he's busy launching all kinds of stuff at you. The penultimate final fight is also a ton of fun as it keeps you on your toes with all sorts of different attacks.
I can easily say that these are some of the best bosses in the Advance series. Heck, they might even be some of the best bosses in the Sonic series period. I really like the one in Cybertruck where you're trying to hit the balls back at Eggman. See, that's what I'm talking about. It should be about how you hit the boss, and not so much when you hit the boss. Although, Twinkle's Nose Boss doesn't quite do it for me. A boss suspended over a bottomless pit? Now that's some classic Dimps design right there. It took me 10 years to beat this boss.
It took you 10 years to beat this boss?
I suck at video games, alright? Leave me alone.
When you've collected the Chaos Emeralds, the final boss will have Gemerald absorbing the power of the Emeralds and ultimately betray Eggman. Super Sonic and Eggman team up to stop the rampaging robot in what might be one of the best 2D Sonic final bosses. You're constantly having to dodge his projectile attacks while waiting for the right time to use your tag action so you can attack him. It's just a really fast-paced and fun fight while being challenging. I would also like to give Advance 3 credit for being the only game in this sub-series where you don't have to play the game 5 times to get to the final boss.
After the battle, Sonic is woken by the sight of his friends as they set off for yet another adventure. You learn that during the credits, Cream actually worked together with Tails to rebuild Gemerald, and now they're the best of friends. How sweet. I should also point out that this game does in fact have voice clips, making it the last game to use the Sonic Adventure voice cast until Dean Bristow's passing in 2005. May he rest in peace.
This may be obvious and a little shoehorned in, but I'd like to mention that the graphics for the Advance games have peaked here, and the animation is almost mind-blowing in Advance 3. The instrumentation of the soundtrack is at the highest peak as well, and I think the composition coincides in that regard. Here are some highlights. Overall, Sonic Advance 3 combines the best elements from the first two games in making an all-around better experience. The graphics, music, and bosses are all at their peak too, with the partner system making way for so much replayability.
Indeed, much like Sonic Advance 1, we've decided to give this game a score of a deserving time, as it's truly a blast to play. You can find it on Amazon for about the same price as Sonic Advance 1 and 2.
Judging the Advance games as a trilogy, we both think that they are an excellent attempt at keeping the 2D Sonic formula fresh and interesting. The stage concepts are interesting, the game controls very well, and the soundtracks overall are decent. Being able to play as multiple characters is also very appreciated. While you might not end up enjoying every game in the trilogy, there are certainly games that every Sonic fan should own at some point.
I couldn't agree more, and with that ends this incredibly meaty review.
Well, Jack, thank you for joining me, and if you're watching this video on my channel and would like to see more of Jack, be sure to check out Jack's Gaming Zone. I recommend his review of Shadow the Hedgehog, as well as his review of Pokemon Sun and Moon, just to start out.
Likewise, if you're watching on my channel and would like to see more great videos done in this style, be sure to check out Innocent Christoph Gavin. I would recommend his very interesting and insightful analysis of Super Mario 64, as well as his fantastic analysis on Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All. You won't be disappointed.
Thank you all for watching.